Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and I am doing a response video today. I am actually responding to a number of different videos, but it started off with Michael K. Vaughn, who did a video called, Does the Format of a Book Matter? He was talking about paperback books and ebooks and how he really loves the mass market paperback format because that's what he grew up with, and he just likes reading books in that format. Um, CriminOlly also did a video stating that it's sort of ingrained. You have a nostalgia for the mass market paperback, and Tradup did a follow-up video where he talks a lot about it and how he says, he thinks he's sort of done with the ebook format. Now, Steve Donoghue did a follow-up to one of those, I think just Michael K. Vaughn's, where he talked about how the Kindle really is a superior way to read for a number of reasons. And none of them talked about audiobooks until a new channel to me, Johanna, talked a little bit about audiobooks. So my video is going to be about the formats and what I like about formats and what I dislike about formats. And to cut to the chase, I like all three of them. Damn the format, keep on reading no matter what. But let's start with mass markets. Here's another mass market paperback. I read this when I was in high school. I didn't get very far in high school because it's not a book for a high school student, but it's still great. There is a lot to be said about holding this book in just this format, and it's a great read. I also happen to have this book in the trade paperback, and it's different. If I were to reread this in a print version, I would probably pick up my trade paperback version because the print is just a little bit easier on the eyes, and I like it a little better, even though I grew up with these. Now, it just so happens that I also own the Kindle version of this book, and I own the audio version of this book. Now, I picked this book specifically because it's a problematic book, and it's not about the content. It's about the way the book is actually printed. Now, if you take a look at this page, you will notice that it has columns. You have a little bit of column there, and you're reading two different texts, not simultaneously, but you read a page and then skip the next page or next text, or do you not? Or do you just read through a couple pages and then go back to read the other text? Now, even on the printed page, this is confusing. If you pick this up in a digital format, it's even going to be more confusing because honestly, I don't think that way printed on the page really works that well because you're supposedly reading a notebook, and you're reading the notebook, and then you're reading the writings in the margins of the notebook. But I picked that out just to highlight the differences that can come with different formats. And if I were to read this again in paper format, I'd pick up this one. But honestly, if I were to read it again, I probably would pick up my Kindle book because I like reading on a digital format. I find it very easy on the eyes, and I'm kind of preferring that now. Now, before we pass on from print, there's also hardcover books. Now, this, of course, is a totally different book, but this is the last hardcover book that I purchased. I purchased this late last year, and I have not purchased a hardcover book since then. In my reading preferences, in my purchasing preferences, I no longer buy hardcover books unless it is a book that I especially want in a hardcover edition. Now, the reason I publish this in hardcover edition because I bought the whole nice box set of this book. But honestly, I probably should have just gone ahead and bought the digital copies. I probably would have had an all in all better reading experience. Now, I still love my books, my paperback books, my mass markets, my trades, my hardcovers. I have a whole basement full of them, and I really like them. I like owning them. I like showing them to people. But when I pick up the book and I start reading, this is where I want to read. Because now I'm talking about digital books. Digital books have been an amazing change in the way I read books. I started reading digital books kind of early. I started reading digital books in the year 2000. And that is way before the Kindle came out. Well, 8 years before the Kindle came out. I used to own this device called a PDA, and you could read digital books on this app called Microsoft Reader. It was not as good as the Kindle, but it was all there was at the time. And it was about the size of a large iPhone. And I used to keep it in a fanny pack. And whenever I went out to dinner with my wife, she would like to go shopping. And she would sit me down in front of the store she wanted to shop at, and I would read my PDA very happily. So I started with digital books way before most people, as I said. And then I migrated to the Kindle in the year 2008. I bought the first Kindle that was ever made. It was expensive and it was clunky, and it was okay. It was better than my PDA, but not much. And I've just grown with the Kindle ever since then. I have always owned one, and I am a very solid Kindle reader. And as you see, this is the Kindle Scribe. This is the top of the line big Kindle. It is it has a 10-inch screen, and it is bigger than most Kindles. Now, this is a very old Kindle that I bought, or my wife actually bought this. I believe this is 8 years old. It may even be 10 years old. And it's a much smaller size, but this is the standard size Kindle that you will get. Now, this is the Kindle Paperwhite. As you can see, the screen is bigger. I'm sorry, this is not the Paperwhite. This is the Oasis. My Paperwhite is on a shelf over there. And this has the nice little buttons. And it has a little bit bigger screen than the normal basic Kindle. But still, I can read on this one if I need to. This is a little bit better, and that little exercise gives it a boost. But nowhere near the boost that you get from the Kindle Scribe. And why do I like the digital format? Well, first of all, I can carry all my books in one place. I don't have to lug them around, especially my book collection. You see this basement of my books. You know, I have a very large physical book collection. And this is not even all of them. And I moved these books from the West Coast to the East Coast. Very expensive. It took up a third of a truck to move all these books. Will I ever read all these books? Probably not. In a way, it would have made sense for me to just unload all of them except the ones that were especially special. But I didn't, because you don't know which physical book you're going to want when you want to read it. And sometimes these books are not available in digital format. Like this one. This book is completely out of print, not available digitally. So I have to haul it around. Now, here's another case. This is a trade paperback. This is from the NYRB Classics Library. I love this collection of books. I have a special shelf for them. Yes, I could have bought this as a digital book. Probably would have been a better choice, been easier to read, but I love having this book. I love holding this. I love the way these books look on my shelves because they're just nice to own. But as a reading experience, it's better on the Kindle. And now I want to talk about another format, audiobooks. Now, some people will say you're not reading with an audiobook. Some people will say that your actual retention of what you take in when listening to the audiobook is less than what you would get from reading either on a digital book or a print book. I'm not going to say that's true because I don't know for sure. I do know that when I just listen to an audiobook, I am fully engaged. I am gathering in all the critical details of that audiobook, the same way I would if I were reading that book. And for me, they're almost indistinguishable from listening or reading. The audiobook has been enormous in my life. I started listening to audiobooks in May of 1997. It was sort of an accident. I had a friend who was a book buyer for Crown Books. Crown Books is now a chain bookstore that has gone out of business. And he wanted help moving one day, moving his boxes of books. And to bribe me to help him, he gave me some buyer's copies, which are the standard edition that you see in the bookstore. And I could bring in those books to trade in at the store for whatever I wanted. But one of the books he gave me was an audio version, an unabridged audio version of 1984 by George Orwell. But when I took it to the store, they didn't carry it. So they did not accept it in for trade. And I could have brought it to a used bookstore and gotten maybe $2 in trade. But I decided to listen to it instead. And ever since then, I have not stopped listening to audiobooks. I will not stop listening to audiobooks until I die or the technological availability ceases to be. I will listen to audiobooks. And since 1997, I have listened to 1,122 books. If you translate that into hours, that's probably between 11,000, 12,000 hours of audiobook listening. And that's a lot of books to have read or have listened to. I would say that most people would not read 1,122 books in a lifetime. But I took that all in through audio, and I will not stop. I think it is equally valid to listen to the book, to read it on your Kindle, or read it on print. All three formats are indispensable to me. And when I listen to people saying, well, I just want to read paper. I don't want to listen to the audiobook. I don't want to read on the Kindle. I think you're doing yourself a disservice because with my three indispensable formats, I have a lot more opportunity to read more books and different kind of books. And I find that extremely valuable and gives me maybe an advantage on the number of books that I can read in a lifetime. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter, what formats people choose. If you want one format or the other, that's your personal choice. But as I'm going to say, it's like, damn the format. Keep on reading. Thank you for watching.